and welcome to another Statford Bridge Live podcast. Coming to you from Sunday morning, post Chelsea losing to Manchester United, post Arsenal drawing Manchester City. Chelsea lose to United away. Old Trafford has been repeatedly an issue for this team. And yesterday was no exception. Rob Sanchez takes a red card 5 minutes into the game, and any tactical takeaways from the remainder of the game cease to exist. That's the whole story, is that Chelsea took an early red card. They conceded 2 goals at 10 men. United took a red card in first half injury time. Chelsea were more competitive in the second half. The pitch was very waterlogged, blah, 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 so on, so on, so on. Statistically, 1.8 to 0.4. For some background, a red card is worth something like 3/4 of an XG per half. So you consider United played the whole first half up a player. That's like half of the difference between the two teams in this match. And, I think Chelsea did not manage the game with 10 players well at all. And I think this is one of the things that we'll end up talking about a lot today in reference to Maresca is like, I think Maresca definitely got it wrong. I think Maresca definitely got it wrong with his adjustments to the red card. That is one I think you cannot deny, and we can talk about that. 11 shots to 5, 3 big shots to 1, so on, so on, so on. Like I said, the matching of the stats doesn't really matter given everything that happened. But Chelsea lost. -1 point on last season. It's a problem. If you look at the year-over-year stuff, the XGD is down. That's entirely because of this game. The goal difference is still up. The points are still up. The XG is down, again, mostly because of this game. The defensive stuff is broadly better. Whatever. We're talking about a 5-game league sample size. Let's just get straight into the red card and get straight into some of the tactical things that led to the red card, and then how Maresca adjusted and what that means. This will be a more tactics board heavy podcast, stream, everything, because there's not that much to make of the data here. It's much more about like structurally what happened. So a couple things that I thought were interesting. Chelsea rotated a little bit from the Champions League game midweek. Esteval comes back in. James starts. Fofana starts. Okay. What I suspect that this would have looked like is, and Esteval comes on the left, which is a thing I said in preseason. I think we're going to see a lot of Esteval off the left. And what we saw with that was that Esteval probably would have come inside to, Esteval probably would have come inside as a left 10, Palmer as a right 10, Cucurella and Neto would have held your width, James, Fofana, Chalobah, back 3. Putting Fofana the middle of the 3 is probably the safest place to put him. He's like a very poor passer, but he's a good dribbler, so he can kind of just like circulate the U. I don't know. This is what I think would have happened. We didn't really get much of a look at it before the red card, so it is what it is. And what happened is what has happened against Palace. It's what has happened against Manchester City last year, is that when Chelsea get put into positions to press, they end up with these situations that a fullback has to jump because a winger is going to go, right? So here's the situation. Esteval is going high to the right center back, which means I think actually it was more like this, but it doesn't really matter. what you end up with is something like this, where you have a 9, you have like a 10 underneath, kind of, and you have a free player. And Mark Cucurella is asked to jump all the way out because Estevao jumps, and then Cucurella jumps behind. Normally, this happens with Neto and James or Gusto, right? Like normally, that is the world that it happens in. This time, it was Estevao and Cucurella. Estevao jumps, Cucurella jumps, which means that Caicedo fills in the back line. They go direct to Sesko against Chalobah. I don't particularly understand. Like, I love Trev. I think he's really, really good. I think he's a very, very talented center back. Chalobah's biggest weakness is he's not that good in the air. He is not. His timing isn't great. He's not super, super strong. Like, he does struggle against direct balls into tall strikers. That is a thing that he is not amazing at. And that's okay. It's like there are other things he's very, very good at. I was surprised that you did not manage it like this, but maybe that's hindsight, because like I think it's justifiable to say, well, Chalobah goes up and Fofana wraps around. That didn't happen here. I thought Fofana had a horrific game. I think Fofana is not good at football, but that's a separate topic. I thought Fofana was very poor. But I think Fofana is a much better leaper than Chalobah is, so you probably would have gone like this. And as Rocco Skrabic says in the chat, that's probably why Tosin came in minute 5. And I think that is exactly the case why Maresca makes the sub off of the red card, is to bring Tosin in to be direct against Sesko. And unfortunately, Chalobah misses it. Fofana is not in great position to recover. Caicedo falls asleep, and you end up with Mbeumo runs behind. Off of the flick on, Sanchez comes and takes him out. Red card. Now, there's a couple of things that I think are interesting about this. One, Jamie Redknapp had a really, really good piece of analysis on Sanchez, where when the direct pass happens, Sanchez is actually standing exactly where he makes the challenge. And if he is more proactive about his sweep, he just clears it and he just deals with it, no problem. But he backs up and then comes again. This is my biggest problem with Sanchez. The shot stopping, I think he's a good shot stopper. The cross claiming, I think he's an excellent cross claimer. The passing, I actually think he's like mostly fine in possession. The sweeping is the stuff where the real Bozo Sanchez moments happen to me, where he gets his timing wrong, he gets his timing wrong, he gets his starting positions wrong, he very frequently drops off and then comes back and then goes again, and then all of a sudden it's like you're here and Erling Haaland has the ball and you get lobbed. Like, that is the thing to me that I'm like, it's the one. It's the one. And it's a problem. It's a real problem. Now, the second part of this is like, once you realize you can't get there, Enzo Maresca said, I'd rather take the goal than the red card. And mathematically, he is absolutely correct. You can think of, again, like I said, a 45 minutes of being up a player is worth something like a penalty. It's about the same mathematically. So if you think about it for Sanchez, you would rather give up the goal, be even players, and now if Casemiro gets sent off at halftime, you get to play the whole second half and make up whatever amazing chance you got. In reality, I think the best decision is once he backs up, it's just too hard to back up and then start going again. That's the thing to me, is once you start backing up, just drop and treat it like a shot. Like, even if Mbeumo goes through on this, it's maybe a 0.5 XG chance. Like, you might save it. You can definitely save it. He might miss the goal, all of those things. So I think that's like number one on the goalkeeper side. I think the number two here is once you decide to come, like, just pull out and let him go. And all right, you get rounded, but like you don't get sent off. So as a result, Estevao comes out, Sanchez becomes Jorgensen. They also take off Neto for Tosin, who I think wears number 4. So I'll adjust my thing. And they go to a back 5 with basically like something like this, where you have like a 5-3-1 off of João Pedro. And you end up with something like this for a few minutes. Chelsea concede off of like a back post delivered cross that gets headed back in. This has been a thing for Chelsea for many years, that like people just lose their back post guy all the time. It's if teams play a short corner, Chelsea shrink near post, and you can hit floated deliveries to the back post, we will get murked by Arsenal for exactly the same way. It's happened multiple times. And you end up with this situation where you're just cooked. Like you can't get there. Now what happens after that is the like second Maresca sin. I think realistically doing the Tosin sub is not something I would have done, but I think is defensible. I think he looked at like, okay, Sesko's 6'5", he's going to win everything. And now that United are up a player, they're going to be able to just shell crosses, and we need Tosin to defend the crosses. I think that's a defensible opinion. But I think bringing Neto off instead of Palmer, who it later comes out has undergone a fitness test pre-match, is not 100%. There's a very low chance he's going to play 90 minutes. I think you just take Palmer there and say, you know what? Not worth it. Not worth it. Again, I think he should just not have played if that's the case, but not worth it. Come off now. You save yourself the sub. Chelsea concede. They concede again off of some of the worst goalkeeping I have ever seen, and the less said about it, the better. And are handed a lifeline by Casemiro, red card. So what do we see in the second half? This becomes Andre Santos, and Chelsea effectively do something like this all the time to get their shape in possession. And they had moments where they actually looked pretty good in possession, because United lose whoever, and United just went to like 5-2-2. Basically, they took the 9 off and just went 5-2 and managed like this. And I thought there were moments that Chelsea looked okay. I thought particularly Andre Santos was good linking things in between. And just what ends up happening is the same as kind of the last couple times that Chelsea have felt that way. You just get nothing in the second half. Like they score a goal off of a set piece that's very dangerous. They get like a pretty good chance off of a knockdown from a cross late. And other than that, they score a goal that is then offside. Like they just did not create much. And part of that is the pitch. The pitch is very slow and all those sorts of things. But it was like pretty stagnant, and they just couldn't get the numbers in the box, because you end up with this situation where João Pedro comes deep to link, and you have no pressure. You have no pressure on the back line. You have no pressure to go. You have no pressure to run in behind any of those things. And this is where, like, I'm sure after the podcast part of this ends, we'll talk about all the transfer things that happen. But like, the things João Pedro does is start deep and run behind, or start high and link. Those are the two things he does. If he starts high, he's not running in behind. So if he starts high, you need other players to do the running in behind. And if you look at the 5 players or 4 players underneath him, James, Fernandez, Andre Santos, Cucurella, who there is running behind him? And so we get to the 65th minute. Chelsea do a double sub. For some reason, the Jorgensen and Tosin subs were considered the same window, even though they did not happen at the same time. So that was very fortunate. We did not get a sub at halftime. So, like, it was pretty stagnant for 20 minutes. And instead we get Malo Gusto, and we get Tyreek George to have one player ahead. And whatever, that's Tyreek George. I'm not even changing the names because it's not worth it. And Tyreek George did not look very good. I thought Tyreek George was a strange decision in that role. He has not looked good when he's played as a 9. And as Andrew Ford says here, everyone last season, it's really bad that Chelsea only have one senior striker. It's really bad that Chelsea only have one senior striker last season, especially as the one they have is someone reliable. Now we effectively have none. 1 shot and 3 for João Pedro, and you can look at João Pedro's FB ref and look in the games he's played as a striker versus the games he hasn't played as a striker. You have 3 games as a striker. He has 1 assist, 0 goals, and they are his 3 worst games of the season. So, not good. He's not taking shots. He's got 3 shots in 3 games as a 9. Not good. So you end up in this situation where, like, what are we doing here? So I think in terms of like the next couple weeks and until Delap is fit and until January, the question to me is like, how are you going to get pressure on the back line? And there's a couple options for that. Is it going to be much more Garnacho? That didn't happen. Is it going to be a lot of João Pedro as a 10, somebody else as a 9? Like, will Guiu play? I think if Guiu plays well against Lincoln, we might get a look. Carlos Wagner says in the chat, I miss Jackson. I think that's the one you look at and you're like, that would be nice. And here we are. In terms of the big picture, like I said, whatever about all of this, I think there's a lot of people, and I said this after the Bayern game, like, people have reacted fairly crazily to the Bayern game. They reacted even more crazily to this game. The reaction to this game was pretty nuts. And yes, as Rocco Scarpich says, you can't even play against Lincoln because you're right, because he is cup tied for that game, which is lovely. But maybe Muka will score. I think that the real thing is like, okay, how much should you take away from this? How much stock should there be in this game? To me, the answer is not a lot, which is not super heartening, but the answer is not a lot. Like, I think if you look at the Bayern game, right? My thing from the Bayern game is Chelsea had a lot of guys come back from international break. They've had a short preseason, so like everybody's already not in a good place. And then have to play a very difficult Brentford game, travel against a very good Bayern game, played okay and lost. Whatever. I think when you look at this game, you have to factor in a few things. 1, third game in a pretty tough week. Away. Brentford, Bayern, United. Like, there's no, where are you resting in there? 2nd, fresh off an international break, so like already players retired. 3rd, preseason. 4th, you take an early red card on a waterlogged pitch. Like, this is a physical nightmare of a game. So when you look at it and say, wow, Chelsea looked really tired. Like, yeah, of course they did. So to me, the only takeaways are this. The only takeaways are this. If you think Chelsea are a 90-point team, you should be concerned. I don't think and have not thought at any point that Chelsea are a 90-point team. I think they are a low 70s point team. And because of that, I am not worried. They are playing like a low 70s point team. Sometimes you play bad and lose. Sometimes dumb things happen and you drop points. That's like what being a Champions League but not amazing Champions League team is. That is takeaway number 1 to me. Takeaway number 2 is like, we have a little bit of a track record developing for Maresca that, like, when the situations aren't clear, right? Like, I think when it's like, okay, the game has started, this bad thing happens, we get 20 minutes to kind of see, okay, here's where the problem is, here's the hole, like, okay, well, they're doing this with their fullbacks and this is what we need to do. He's really good. I think his tactical solves, when it's like he's got time to break it down and take a look, really good. I think when the situations are a bit chaotic, like red cards, like whatever, I think he struggles a little bit. I think we have some signal that that may be the case. And now, how concerned am I about that? The answer is not very, because one, your goalkeeper getting sent off in the first 5 minutes is extraordinarily rare. That has happened. Like, I think it's the earliest red card for a goalkeeper in 30 years or something like that. And like, that's not, if you are picking your manager over the best ability to adapt to an early red card, like, what, that's just a dumb thing to select your manager for. So, like, I think he's fine. Am I concerned about it? No. He's fairly inexperienced. It's like his third season ever as a manager. I don't even think he's coached 100 games as a coach. He's probably just above 100 games as a coach. Like, let's just give it a deep breath, and it's fine. We'll answer a couple questions for the podcast portion, and then we'll cut the podcast, and then we will just keep streaming afterwards. Abhishek Jain says there are issues with the press. Stop asking Trev to jump out of the back line. It's like a fish out of water. He doesn't do that well. Many players are also overplayed. I actually fundamentally disagree with this. Like, I cannot express the degree to which I think you are incorrect. Trev is really, really, really good jumping into midfield. He is very, very, very good jumping into midfield. I think the thing Trev does poorly, the most poorly as a center back, is when he is asked to post up target men. Like, that, I think, is the role that he does poorly. So, like, in a pairing of Chalobah and Fofana, I am much more comfortable with Chalobah following Mbeumo deep and Fofana dealing with the target man than I am the other way around. 100%. I do not think that Trev is incapable of that. I think Tosin is a player that you absolutely do not want in that situation. The problem with Tosin is that, like, he's good at dealing with big target man guys, but he cannot deal into the channel. He cannot deal into the channel. We've seen so many times where he overcommits, he gets chopped, and then it's a goal, or it goes through his legs or whatever. Not worth. I think the reality is that the way Chelsea choose to press, which often has a winger jumping, which has a cascading jump behind it, with players pulled out of position, means you end up with players looking dumb in moments. I think it is the reality of the way Chelsea defend. Now, if you ask me, well, why do you play that way if it's going to make players look dumb, is that, like, Chelsea improved significantly defensively last year. So, like, there's clearly something there that it kind of works. But I think, like, if you look at Arsenal City today, like, these are two teams who defend, like, a very compact 4-4-2 block, and they gave up basically nothing to each other. One real good chance each way, and that's it. That's the whole game. So, I don't know. A lot of conversation in the chat about Amiga and Jackson. Lucas says we should get that Nicholas Jackson from Bayern. Looks decent. And then Vastarort TV says Amiga better than Jackson. So on, so on, so on. A couple of people said loved the Amiga cameo earlier. I think the reality is Chelsea just need a guy who's going to run in behind all the time. Whether João Pedro is playing, whether Palmer is playing, whether you go a full midfield three of Caicedo, Enzo, Andre, you need someone who's going to put pressure on the back line. And really, I think you need two of those players. So if you are playing a midfield three of, I don't even know, this was Neto. If you're playing a midfield three of, or a front three rather, of João Pedro, Neto, and Esteval, I don't think there's enough pressure in behind. But I think if you play Garnacho, João Pedro, and Esteval, you probably have enough pressure in behind. I think if you play Garnacho running behind striker and someone else, you can get away with it. But you just need the pressure in behind. Big time. Random Scoot says, let's say Sanchez makes a few more mistakes. Not that I want him to quite like him this season, but is there anyone else available in the market like Mina and shot stopping looks worse? Well, I think I think Chelsea would go get Mina as a short-term guy because he's out of contract. He still hasn't agreed a new deal. That's one I think they would go back to as a free agent. And a couple of people have mentioned Penders. I'm just going to point out something because like Liga put out a thing about Penders today showing him in the build-up. Penders has not played well as a goalkeeper so far. Like, he conceded 2 goals from 1 XG on shots, and it's very noisy. You really shouldn't look at like single games here. But like, if you are expecting, so he is now 5 goals from 3.5 XG. That's not good. If you are expecting Penders to be ready to start for Chelsea next season, like, you are incredibly incorrect. He will not be close, I don't think. I think he might be close the season after that. The number of 21-year-old goalkeepers who are ready to start for a good Champions League team is 0. Like, Donnarumma was the last one. Just like, give him a little bit of time, because what's going to happen is he's going to come in, he won't be ready, and then he will cost you games, and then you will be like, well, this guy sucks, and then he will not develop. And Des fully says, then we got to get a GK. And like, if you feel that way about Sanchez, I get it. However, I think that Sanchez is completely fine. I don't feel strongly that you should get rid of him. Like, if you can get Mainen on like a decent deal, like a decent contract for like 2 years or something, sure. But I think that's a short-term stopgap. CFFNM 47 says like, we got check at 21. Yeah, that was 20 years ago. And somebody brings up the Thibaut Courtois comparisons, but like, Thibaut Courtois is one of the best goalkeepers of all time. Like, sure. Lord Flacco says, didn't mind and also get injured. Yeah, he is out injured right now. The last question for the podcast part of this that we will leave it at is I'm concerned that we are trending towards a potential regression and conflict between Enzo and the directors. Now, this is an interesting question to me, because one of the things I find particularly interesting, if we go back to the match, is twofold. Tyreek George was like 10 minutes from moving to Fulham on a permanent deal, like gone from the club. Okay. He has now come on a bunch, mostly as a striker. He has played significantly more than I expected him to. He's not looked very good. And Enzo Maresca continues to play him ahead of Mark Guiu. I find that particularly interesting, and raises question marks in terms of their alignment to me. I look at particularly that one. And I just think that's one to keep an eye on. And this person, Brandon Tarney, followed up. I appreciate your calm, measured approach, but are you not at all concerned about top 5? I'm not worried yet. I'm not worried yet. It will take quite a bit more. I think you look at Newcastle and Villa, who both drop points today. Like, Villa drop points to Sunderland, up a player for 70 minutes. Like, I am just not I'm just not worried about that. Sorry, I just got a WhatsApp call, which is pretty funny. I am just not worried about that. So we will see. We will see what happens there. So we'll wrap the pod there, and then we can jump onto stream. Anyways, that's all for me. As always, enjoy the soccer.